The House of Dior is integral to the film. That's the dress she sees, that's the dress she wants. So my understanding when I took on the project was that Dior were going to do all the Dior elements, and I would be involved and I could have an opinion, but basically Dior would do Dior. But I was invited to go to the archives, and that was a fantastic outing with the wonderful people who run that. And they showed us they were so generous with their knowledge and their research materials. I saw the original books of that show with the little drawings, with the sample fabrics, with the notes. And I mean, it was just an extraordinary experience. Mrs. Harris's transition in Paris was totally fascinating. You've got Leslie Manville, who is probably one of the greatest actresses, and in my mind, I would do anything for her, but she's already given us the perfect starting point. So doing her as Mrs. Harris, the cleaning lady, was relatively simple. The problem when she gets to Paris, and obviously she's only come for the day, she hasn't even brought, a washing bag, she's just come. And she's going to stay with the accountant because his sister's away, so she can use his room. And he says, so you can borrow, and it's about the same size, you can borrow her clothes, which is fine. But we then had to work out who this sister was because she's not scripted. So we decided she would be called Sandrine, and Sandrine has acquired quite a personality now. But the real problem was when we started to dress Leslie Manville in the fitting as Sandrine, she looked like Leslie Manville as Sandrine as opposed to Mrs. Harris. So we decided Sandrine had bigger feet and the shoes didn't fit. So the dresses or the outfits are all from Sandrine's wardrobe. But Mrs. Harris keeps her nice little sensible lace-up polished shoes. It's always different with every actress how they react to a fitting. And Leslie is particularly, I would say, easy and very much sort of said whatever you think. We have worked together before, so it's not, only on Cranford, which was lovely and Victorian and very different period, but we do know each other. But she sort of said, and then I think she reacted well to the first things we put her in. And you kind of know immediately when you've gone wrong. So I'd always put the costumes on a stand, get a stand about the right size and do a sort of trial run for myself and photograph it. And often it works fine on the stand, but doesn't actually when you get to the person. But she's so polite. She won't say anything until I say, I don't think that's working. She'll say, no, I don't. And yesterday we had to do another little quick fitting with her because they wanted something a bit more dressy for the, not Café Royal, the Boîte Rouge. And I knew the one that was going to work, and she knew the one. She just said, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? This is it. And I think we've just got a really good rapport, but because she's so clever at doing the character, and she's not at all method, she has a completely normal real life, but once she is Mrs. Harris, she just is Mrs. Harris, and she kind of knows exactly what it is, that will work for Mrs. Harris, clothes-wise. We've been doing it by remote control and Zoom. Isabel, I knew what I wanted, so I would send Corinne the images I'd found, and it has to be a woman in black. All Dior's women, they all wear black. They're all very, very severe, and they all look marvelous. And there's tons of research. And that was really fun. So I sent Corinne some choice pieces. She sourced from the costume houses she knows really well. We did a Zoom fitting in Isabel's flat one Sunday, I think it was a Sunday evening, because she's really busy. And then we did a second one on a Saturday evening, again in her Paris flat, with someone from one of the other costume houses who does brilliant alterations and has made for her a lot. And so, it really worked. Obviously, they're not professional camera people, so they've set the computer up, and sometimes it was against the light, so I couldn't always see as well as I would if I was, in a room with someone. But actually, it worked. And I remember she looked into the camera and just said, I'm very happy, Jenny. And I just thought it was so wonderful. Fantastic opportunity because you can get some real colour in. And of course, I remember I had a Jamaican nanny when I was very little in the 50s, and she always wore gloriously colourful clothes. And again, there's lovely reference in photographs of the Caribbean Jamaican, the people who came to England in the 50s to help us after the war. And Ellen's, again, just joyous, so we could do a bit of joy on her. I had a long talk with Lambert. He was in some part of Austria doing a concert, and he said, asked him, what do you feel best in, double-breasted or single? But double-breasted just seemed to be the better shape of suit for him, and certainly works for the Marquis. He's very stylish. I've worked with Lambert also before, so it's a lovely relationship. And he was very sweet after the Dior show. He said, I got a lot of compliments on my suits. The problem with Jason is he goes smart quite easily, so to bring him down to being a bookie is quite a challenge. But of course, he decided he was quite a snappy dresser bookie, so that was fine. And yeah, again, it's one good suit with a change of waistcoat, and then his sort of work clothes, which are just browner, and the brown like a warehouse coat is very much what people on the racetracks wear. So it was nice you could bring. And the cap helps hugely as well. That just brings him more into that proper world. Because Jason easily goes aristocratic, which isn't the point in this film. I tried to find the different areas with colour as much as anything. And London after the war was phenomenally drab and grey and brown. So that's quite easy. And if you just look at the photographs, there's a sort of rough tweediness about men and a sort of grittiness. Whereas Paris, even though they were occupied, seemed to be much chicer, much more fashionable. Everybody just looked sharper. So I went more for creams and blacks and navy in Paris, but not obsessively. Otherwise, to me, that's not the way this film is. It's a real film about real people. So I wanted to keep it reasonably, loose. The Big Dior show was our sort of, major opus on this, I think. I did not design the dresses. Christian Dior designed them, except for two, which I did in honour of him, but to fulfil our story requirements. But I did organise the making, and I had two amazing makers, John Bright of Cosprop and Jane Law, who they both make for me, or make for all the top stars, but they both understand fashion. They love Dior. They're passionate about getting the shapes right, and we're also trying desperately to get the fabrics right, the weight of the Dior, because his stuff is really heavy. It was thick, the fabrics, and fabrics were thicker then because they didn't have so much central heating, so people needed thicker clothes to stay warm, whereas now everything's so overheated we can go around in sleeveless dresses in winter. But it was very important to get the colours right. We actually dyed a lot of the fabrics to try and get the strength of the colours that we felt were correct. And we're going mainly off photographs. So, and I just think they did an extraordinary job.